Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Are there competing economic ideologies in Indian politics? And if there aren't any, is there any ideology, or maybe there is one national ideology on which everybody agrees? That is the central theme of our national interest this week, that India's political economy only has one ideology. Now, what is it that nudged her into this week's national interest argument? It was simply that one statement by Jyotiraditya Scindia when he was welcomed in Bhopal at this big riotous welcome by the BJP, the party he just joined. He said in all of Madhya Pradesh, there are only two politicians. He said, pointing to Shivraj Singh Chauhan, the former chief minister, and obviously himself. He said, we are the only two politicians in Madhya Pradesh who do not switch on the air conditioning in our cars. Now, that was a very interesting point to make. What was he trying to say? He was trying to say that we are not elite, we are Janta ka people, we are like common people. We don't mind going through the rough and tumble of politics because we want to feel like common people. Now, there were some taunts immediately that, oh, look, you drive a Range Rover. So you drive a Range Rover without air conditioning sounds a little bit odd. But that besides, that is not the issue. The issue is the political message this conveys. The political message this conveys is that no matter who you are, no matter what your background, you have to look frugal in Indian politics. Even if you are not from a chaiwala background, you have to look like you were probably from a chaiwala background, even if you are a royal. Now, we turn to the chaiwala that we have, that is Narendra Modi, who actually started out as a chaiwala. But remember that question that Prasoon Joshi asked him in London in that conversation with him, where he said, "Itni fakiri aap mein kahan se aayi?" The simple answer to that is, I started out in fakiri as a poor boy selling chai at a railway platform. But that is a killjoy. The answer to that, which then the admirers of Narendra Modi would give, is that, see, in spite of now having all this power and all these comforts and a reasonable salary, he still sticks to his fakiri. Look how frugal and humble is my leader. So my leader humblest or my leader frugalest has become a kind of touchstone of success in Indian politics. Then if you look at Indian politics would indicate to you that the really rich people or feudal people have done quite badly in Indian politics. In fact, if you look at the entire political history, and I've run my eye over as comprehensively as I could, I can only find two former genuine feudals who can get elected on their own, at least in a state each. That is Amrinder Singh in Punjab and Vasundhara Raje, that is Jyotiraditya Scindia's aunt in Rajasthan. None of the others. At the same time, we almost never elect a fakir into a top position. Yet, even when we elect a feudal, the feudal has to pretend to be a fakir. What is the example? The example is the slogan at VP Singh's election in 1989. VP Singh was Raja of Manda. It's a small principality. So he was a feudal, not really a Maharaja. He was called Raja of Manda. He was the Raja of a very tiny principality. But still, his election slogan was, Raja nahi fakir hai, desh ki takdeer hai. So every politician in India has now figured that he must or she must look poor in front of the people. And you find, and I'm not making this statement targeting any party or judging anybody. This is a secular compulsion in our politics. All politicians have to do it. So Narendra Modi, irrespective of how he dresses, the pens he carries, the glasses he wears, has to have the image of frugality. Rahul Gandhi must be seen eating at a dhaba on the roadside, riding a commuter train with common people, going to a Dalit home to eat, riding a motorbike to go to Bhatta Parsal or someplace. Never mind those long, obviously expensive holidays overseas. Similarly, you can see almost anybody in our politics. In fact, if you look at all the princelings in all the parties, not just Congress, they have two lifestyles, the AM lifestyle and PM lifestyle. AM is what they do in daytime, which is for janta ka consumption, and evenings is the socializing time. So those are two different lives and parallel lives that they live. In fact, I realized how these dual lives are led very early on, and coincidentally it's a story about Jyotiraditya Scindia's late father, Madhavrao Scindia. I was following his election campaign in 1984 in Gwalior, and he had us follow with him. In fact, he campaigned like a commoner. He gave Rajiv Gandhi's very socialist message to the poor. He encouraged us, much younger than him, to address him as Bhaiya. But at one of the village stops, as we stopped, his eyes lit up and he said, "This is where I shot my first tigress." So that is how these dual lives run in Indian politics. What has happened on the other hand is that we voters have got used to it. We know that this is a pretense, but we buy into it. As I said earlier, the killer line is my leader humblest or my leader frugalest. There is no way a Donald Trump can be elected in India because he's just too rich for us to trust him with our poverty. Now, I in the past may have had some cheap thrills making fun of Sonia Gandhi and our NAC by calling them povertarians. The principle of povertarianism is, as I defined it, poverty is my birthright. Apologies to Lokmanya Tilak. Poverty is my birthright and I shall do everything in my power to make sure that you have it. But the joke is on me because this is what now everybody does. Every political party in India believes in this. So if you can't do more for the poor, don't bother. Just as long as you are seen to be hurting the rich, the poor will be happy. Even if you look at some of the tax changes Modi government has lately made, the so-called super rich tax, the increased dividend taxes, the increased long-term capital gains tax, these will bring very little revenue to the exchequer. But the rich are now complaining. And as the rich complain, it looks like they are hurting and maybe it pleases the poor. So that has now become one ideology in India's political economy. So if there is no binary in your political economy, then what polarizes your politics? Then you are left with issues that are socially divisive, like say secular slash communal slash pseudo-secular. Any growing country, particularly a country with pretensions of India's, cannot grow like that. Because if that becomes that country's politics, then that country is condemned to live with a middling growth rate. Economist Raj Krishna called it the Hindu rate of growth in the 1970s. If you and I use it these days, we get attacked immediately on social media. Why are you calling it Hindu? Why not something else? Why not communist? But Raj Krishna called it. Today, if you are back to the equivalent of that rate, it is because that is the default growth rate of such a political economy, which essentially does not believe in free enterprise, minimum government, maximum governance. So it started 60 years ago, almost exactly 60 years ago, when Jawaharlal Nehru purged the really brilliant minds, many of them in his party, who were people of the economic right. They were libertarians, almost libertarians, led by Rajaji or Chakravarti Rajgopalachari. They all left, they formed the Swatantra Party, which lasted 15 years and then died. Theirs was an idea. They were the last and the only believers in the idea of minimum government, maximum governance. After that, everybody has had the same philosophy and India is paying for that. And until this changes, we will not have any improvement. Having come here, I have to conclude with a story from 1990 in Prague. when I was covering the unraveling of the Eastern Bloc or the Soviet Bloc. So my driver there, Prague, Soviet Bloc did not have that many taxis those days, and since everything was up in confusion, many people who didn't have jobs would drive their own cars as taxis. So this young fellow was driving his car as a taxi, and I discovered that he had a top degree from Czechoslovakia's top tech university. He was only driving that car as a taxi because he did not have a job, and he blamed communism for this, and he passionately described and explained why he hated communism. So I told him, listen, hang on. In my country, communists are doing fine. Not only are they getting elected in at least a couple of states, but actually the current government that's in power in India also needs their support. So he said, you know what? When the emergency came to your country and you were denied your political freedoms, you fought back. You've never enjoyed economic freedom, so you never fight back for your economic freedoms. In Czechoslovakia, we had enjoyed both economic and political freedoms. Communism took both away, so we fought to get both back. You guys never enjoyed economic freedom, so you will never fight for it. With that story, I conclude this week's argument.